issues that the hashtag Fix the Economy have raised. First, I'm working with the Minister for Water and Sanitation to immediately ensure potable water to areas of critical need. Second, I'm working with the Ministers of Roads and Highways and Transport and Interior to address congestion along the major highways. Third, we are fast-tracking the implementation of the 200 million Jobs and Skills Program and Economic Transformation Program to enhance job creation significantly. This intervention is designed to facilitate new and expanded private sector businesses to employ more people. This, we believe, is a more sustainable way to rebuild this economy instead of expanding government employment schemes. Fourth, starting this month, we are rolling out over 8 additional interventions under the Ghana Cares Obatampa program. These will be in the health, agriculture, tourism, trade, digitization, science and technology, housing, and financial services. Fifth, by the end of July, we'll have a new development bank capitalized at over $500 million that will provide long-term wholesale financing, not retail as happened in the past, to the private sector through commercial banks and non-bank financial institutions such as venture capital companies for SMEs to ensure financing to support the youth.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta there addressing 5 issues that he says are going to speak to the issues that have been raised by the Fix the Country, or as he calls it, Fix the Economy hashtag. He also spoke about the Ghana Cares program specifically.
The CARES program, if you read it well, includes a guarantee fund. It includes a development bank. It includes strengthening of MBSSI to support MSSME companies, and also for the banks to be able to further support 1D, 1F programs, coupled with the Skills and Jobs project and Economic Transformation project, then puts it in an ecosystem of support. And these are not reflexes. These are all, thought through things that have been announced. And really, when one sits together to put it all together, you see an ecosystem of forethought and progress to really say that we are not here for sort of whimsical responses to things, but a planned agenda to move from public sector control as we diminish that to private sector. And these are some of the things that have already been in the pipeline.
Right. So let's talk about this. Obviously, this movement, it's about a week old, right? A week and a couple of days, and it seems to encompass a lot of things. It's calling for things like the basically the reviewing of our constitution. It's calling for a change to the way in which we remunerate our elected and appointed officials. Talking about some of the benefits we give them that they think do not sit in the context of our, let's call it, developing country status.
Yeah.
These V8s and all of that. They talk about roads. They talk about corruption. They raise widespread and far-reaching issues. This particular press conference sought to deal with, some of those issues in the context of the economy, which is why, in fact, you heard the finance minister use the hashtag Fix the Economy. Do you feel like this will in any way speak to the needs of those who are so angry on social media, or will it end up going over the heads of most of them?
I mean, first and foremost, let me go to the 2016 manifesto of the NPP. If you read a forward by the President of the Republic of Ghana today, the issues that people raised and the Fix the Country Ghana people have raised, all of them are enumerated by the President. from unemployment through to how we have done politics wrong, through to how we cannot provide for the basic needs of our people, and people are in despondency and suffering and all of that. So I'm not sure government is oblivious of these facts and government will know them consistently. The only difficulty is that, and why they may not necessarily be impressed with, we are recommitted to doing these things, is that consistently there has been those promises to do and do more. Now, I mean, yes, it's true that we've had what they call it, good GDP, more than 8% in the year 2017, starting off on a very good note, especially when prior to that it was less than 4% in 2016. But that started going down to 7 to 6% even before 2020. So the promise, for example, to have double-digit GDP has not been possible under this government. There are other things that this government has done right in the economy, and there are other things that's also done woefully wrong, right from the many promises and how they have been delivered either partially or not touched at all, or how they have been reduced to mere propaganda gimmicks in some form. So there's a lot of people who are still in this group thinking that why is it that in our part of the world, when people promise, they either under-deliver or do not deliver and come to give excuses for it? Why is it that we are only interested in repeating the same old issues? Because this Obatampa and Care program is in the 2021 budget. Yes, it's not anything new. I'm convinced that the people who are supposed to be part of this program knew it was in the budget. The government knew it was in the budget. You do not wait till April getting to May where people start complaining. Then say, oh, we are now getting back to it and we are going to start work immediately. The issue about water problems in this country have been consistently raised, and it has been raised all the time. The president of the Republic of Ghana campaigning in 2016 raised the same issue too. So it is not new. What is new is the quest to do it and not necessarily tell us you are going to do it. And I heard one of them say that we've heard the promises before and the recommitment to commit yourself to doing the things you told us you would do before. What is missing is the actual doing. And that is what maybe, to me, government should focus more. That instead of always telling us stories about what we are going to do and what we may be able to do or what we may not be able to do, listen, let me put one in perspective. I was excited when we started IPEP. Because IPEP was to alleviate poverty and reduce it to the barest minimum. And IPEP included all of this, one district, one that, one village, one dam, including also, and you see, the minister mentioned sanitation. The crux of IPEP was at least to remove two main problems. One, sanitation, two, water problems. So that's why IPEP actually strategized that the 1 million per constituency, you in your constituency, in Fansiman will decide that these are the things that are top on our list. After that, there's a development authority that's supposed to implement it. Let me pick out one. As of 2019, when we interrogated under the DN Anado program, when we did free feedback for government, when we interrogated this IPEP program, took it by constituency, let's go to Odododio alone. That thing has been woefully implemented. I mean, tell me how on earth do you build three? Do you try to build 3 boreholes and 2 fail? Which work went into that? And let's not forget, this was $1 million city equivalent will be like 5.6, 5.5 per constituency. So by now, we should have expected each of the constituencies should have received $4 million, each city equivalent, and the projects that are supposed to be in that area. But we know that it is one of the things that government said it has wonderful intentions and yet failed to deliver properly. Then this is, again, before COVID, so that we put in proper perspective, so that we don't make it look like COVID destroyed that plan too. Because this was before COVID. So the call by the people is not that they don't think you can do something. It's that you have failed consistently to do the things, even that you said you do. Even though the things might not be ambitious enough. I hope you are getting my point.
Yeah.
So we seem to be in a circular motion. We start from a point, we go around, come back to the same point, and the nation Ghana, with all of its prospects, with all of its human resource, natural resource, is still not evolving into the greater height supposed to be, regardless of the talk we keep on doing. That is the frustration that the people are expressing. And I'm insisting that the only way you can fit into this frustration is to do the things you say you do and do more than that. Not repeat the things you say you do. for repetitions. We have heard them. And I'm saying again that the things the minister said, they are in the budget. So all these gentlemen have been to school. They can read what's in the budget. But they are saying that you have promised us things in the budget before, which you have woefully under-delivered and ought to do more. So I think that's where government should be able to move to from here. Do less of the political gimmickry and the spin work and the social media fights and the team to attack people. Do less of that. Channel all your energy into delivering. When you do that, everybody will see. You don't need to tell us.
You see, Kojo, now, you remember the 2016 elections. It was, since I started monitoring elections in Ghana, seriously in 1996, it was one election that when they ask you, what does the opposition party intend to do? You could list all of them.
Yeah.
You knew of the one district, one factory. You knew of the one village, one dam, one constituency, $1 million. I mean, look, you could talk about a lot of the things the NPP said it was going to do if given power. And you saw how Ghanaians overwhelmingly endorsed the NPP by voting for them. And the president actually acknowledged that when he appeared in Parliament on the 21st of February 2017 to deliver a State of the Nation address. He talked about how, Ghanaians didn't vote for him to complain, but rather to fix the problems.
Yeah.
No wonder he said he was a man in a hurry.
Yeah.
The finance minister did something yesterday, very soft-spoken. So, it wasn't bad he was the one chosen to address, the country as government's response.
Yes.
The first time government was, communicating on all of this. Now, the demonstrators or Fix the Country, this is their purpose. The event which is being organized on the back of a string of consistent broken promises by successive governments.
Right.
And watch what the finance minister started by doing. He starts by, saying he agrees that there are issues in this country and it's been as a result of a failure to do a few things by successive governments. And so he reiterates that point that was made. Fantastic. But you ask yourself the question. You see, 3 years ago, I posted something on Facebook. It was on 1st October. I said, be careful of the promises you make when you are in opposition. For soon you will be in power. Then reality sets in. It's very important. Look, so if you would say, for instance, okay, let's look at what were promised. And we played some sound bites when the president, for instance, talked about changing the face of the country in 2 years. Okay? Now, end of 2 years would be 7th January 2019. No COVID-19. The vice president talked about how in 2 years there will be no village with a toilet problem
Or water
or water problem. That ends in 2019, before COVID. So you see, the problem is the promises that were made. Why have the promises not been fulfilled? I end on this note. This is the government that promised a movement from taxation to production. And I have quoted the April 2015 letter by a deputy commissioner of the Ghana Revenue Authority indicating that we lose billions of Ghana cedis, about over 30 billion Ghana cedis at the port only. Any government that intends to block the leakages should have been starting from there. We'll come back. I have a lot more to say about this, Kojo. So let's get on to Zoom and speak to our guest then.
Indeed, and our guest this morning, John Kumah, who's the Deputy Finance Minister designate,
Yes.
And Oliver Barker-Vormawor, who is the convener of the Fix the Country movement. Gentlemen, good morning to you both, and thank you for your time.
Good morning.
Thank you, Kojo. I'm happy to be here.
All right. Now, I'm going to start with you, Oliver, if you don't mind. Yesterday, we had a quick chat following the presser at the Finance Ministry. There wasn't a lot of time. But in that time, I was trying to get to one thing in particular. I was trying to find out whether the movement in any way feels like they have been communicated to. Do you feel like the finance minister has spoken to you? And what is the message you've received from him?
So, one of the things I've said consistently on that in that regard is that I think generally, from what I am sensing, a lot of people say, and again, I do not pretend to say that I'm echoing the voices of the vibrant and different voices. I'm giving a personal take on this. Is that what I have noticed and observed is that a lot of people were in fact not expecting the finance minister to speak, because a lot of people felt that yesterday was about letting Ghanaians speak, and that the government and other state institutions take the backseat and listen. And there was a failure of listening. And that is what a lot of people are frustrated about, generally. Secondly, I think it's actually you guys have hinted at, that a lot of what people are saying is we have been pushed into a situation where we no longer trust the voice of state institutions when they speak. There's a confidence gap. There's a crisis of confidence in what is happening, and that people do not believe any state institutions when they speak. And so I think what we should focus on, and we have become a republic of quick fixes. We see a young boy, whether commits the killing or murder of another child in Kasua, and then we say, it must be because of what is on TV. Nobody has done the work to connect it to any other thing. And so quickly we close 49 stations and say that solves the problem. I want to avoid quick fixes. And I worry that we are getting back quickly on that path. I think the way in which we engage this is that we need to rebuild trust in people's ability to take government at its word and believe that their word is their bond. And if we don't have that, we cannot commit to a project which we are unable to subscribe to or place faith in. So this is where I think we need to contextualize the conversation and what he was saying. And I hope that he or any other person who chose to use yesterday to speak understand what, gets the messaging. And I'm at pains to stress that point, because it's about a reset of structure. It's about a reset of the system and the way in which the system has engaged with its citizens in complete disregard for them. And all of this, you can pick it up by just looking at the notification you gave to the police, which in any sense is a charter of what we were hearing people say over and over again. It doesn't give you a laundry list of issues. In as much as I appreciate that there's socioeconomic issues that are also part of the conversation. But we have those conversations because the institutions that this 1992 Constitution put in place have not delivered on the Constitution's promises. And we want to go back and reset so that as a country, we can set ourselves on an agenda that is built on mutual partnership and on truly fixing the country together. That's what I think about the statement.
Right. So what I'm hearing is that you expected government to listen rather than speak to you. Now, that's interesting, because we know that a couple of days before that, government, at a rather high level, several ministers, convened a meeting with you. And at that meeting, according to the Attorney General, apart from what the Information Ministry says that you said, in the sense that the meeting was a good thing, apart from that, you didn't actually say anything. You didn't tell them anything that they could work with or listen to. So, if they invited you and didn't hear anything from you, then why would you expect them to be listening a couple of days later?
Yeah. And I want to place this in context because it is important. One of the things that has been consistently, and I want people to pay attention closely to, is the consistent mixed messaging from, state institutions and state apparatuses as regard whether the grievances themselves are justified and whether or not people should be talking. And I also say that the context in which the government chooses to engage in the conversation is important. Nobody is saying that this whole thing, and we say clearly, it's not against this government. It's not about changing this government. And if that's the way in which they're interpreting it, then they're picking up the wrong signals. And we've given so much of that signal already to them. But what is disappointing about what they are calling meeting, a successful meeting, one person says it's a successful meeting, the other person says, no, it was a show of bad faith and you guys actually didn't engage us, is that it was a conversation that was put in place that did not come through the front door. And if we have a democracy that continues to thrive on backdoor and underhand dealings, that the circumstances and the process matters in engendering faith in the results. And I've said again consistently, and so many of us have said, that we were ambushed into a meeting and escorted into a meeting that we didn't know was convened. And nobody can dispute that. And I'm again inviting journalists to put this matter on record, because truth matters in politics and truth matters in how we solve the problem. And that's why I continue to belabor the point that the manner in which we were ushered into a meeting that we had no knowledge about, and almost while we were in a police convoy and told that we were changing direction. In fact, a number of our representatives thought that we were being arrested. That's what the feeling that we had. And all of this was put up on social media in real time. So if we were brought into a conversation like that by ambush, and you're asking representatives who have been briefed and debriefed on how we engaged the Inspector General of Police regarding the protest, saying that speak to a collection of cabinet ministers now or forever hold your peace. I think it misconstrues what the conversations that we need to have.
So you were not prepared for that meeting? You didn't know what
there was no meeting called. We were ambushed into their meeting.
Yeah.
We had no meeting called. So, to say that we are not prepared even suggests that there was a meeting on the agenda and that we had to prepare for, and we failed on our part to prepare for.
Right. Right.
But importantly...
So when you got there and they wanted to know what your grievances were, did you not know your grievances?
This is what we said. Our grievances has been so clear and well articulated that it's about fixing the country, it's about fixing systems and structure. And we did say that to them clearly. They acknowledged that our letter speaks with volumes and in a clear and loud voice.
Right.
However, this is what I've said about we being a republic of quick fixes. Kojo, how long has this conversation been on the table? Barely 10 days. And we want to quickly move on. When so many people in Ghana haven't even been engaged. It's also about democratizing the conversation. Let's move the conversation from the virtual into the offline. Let us simmer into our communities, and let us adjunct them as agents of their own voice. Let them speak what issues they have. And as long as when we do that listening enough, then we can continue and start the process of building trust towards solutions. Let's not put the cart before the horse. That's my feeling on that matter.
Okay. Just before we bring in Mr. John Kuma, I think Winston has a question for you, Oliver.
So Oliver, now, yesterday while speaking on Joy News, you said a few things, and you say that people want something substantive. Now, what is that substantive thing that you say that people want to see? Did you get that in the finance minister's press conference yesterday?
It would be unfair on me to put the burden, the entire burden on the finance minister, because the finance minister can only speak to a sector. And what I think, before we get into sectors, we need to think holistically before we get into sectoral thinking. If not, we're going to be tripping over ourselves. And so it would be unfair on me to put that burden on him, which is about, structural issues which go beyond his specific portfolio, and expect those conversations from him. As far as his own speech and the statements he made are concerned, a lot of Ghanaians are ruminating on this, and a lot of the Ghanaians who are speaking about what Fix the Country means to them are weighing that speech. And for some of them, it is coming up hollow. Other people says it's almost as if we are getting a rereading of the budget.
How about
they think
you?
That
How about you? For you, what is it?
Personally, I don't want to co-opt the voices of other people, to be honest. I think that process matters and the process has not been followed. I am unable to subscribe to content when we are not done, bringing a lot of Ghanaians into the conversation. I'm unable to subscribe and weigh content when we are not done, building trust again in the government and people who are saying that we are tired of broken promises, and then we are given a laundry list of new promises and being asked to weigh whether new promises fix the failure of governments to keep promises. I think there's a disconnect. But there's one thing which is important in what he said. He acknowledged, and if you listen carefully, he said that the reason why successively we've gone into IMF program 17 times is that we have been disingenuous. His words, you could go back and listen to the tape, in communicating the facts even to the authorities that matter. That if governments, and this is a huge concession, and I applaud him for that recognition. So let's use that as a basis to engage, so that we move our state institution from a routine practice of disingenuity. We get into a space where we can rebuild trust. And that's what I want to pick up as substantive from what he said.
Now, you've also said, for instance, that, your call is a broader call that engages all segments of society. Now, wouldn't that suggest a together we fix it kind of thing, that all hands should be on deck in dealing with the challenges we're faced as a people?
Absolutely. I mean, I have said consistently that the questions we are raising go beyond one party. It goes beyond the bipartisan issue. It must engage all the good parts of our society and all the segments of our society. So I honestly believe that the conversation about fixing it together is exactly what we're saying. And that is why I think that if government rolls out a list of promises and says, I am the solution provider, just complain and I'll provide the solution, it will miss the point. That we all need to be brought into the conversation generally to make the point. That's sort of my thinking on that, and I'm glad you hint at it. That if we are moving all the segments of society to fixing the country, then let's all have a voice in that process, and let's put in place a structure that allows that. That's right. That's my sentiment on that.
Okay, please stay with us, Oliver, because still a few more things we'd like to engage you on. But I want to bring in the Deputy Finance Minister designate, Mr. John Kumah, who's on the other line. Mr. Kumah, thank you so much for your patience. I saw you yesterday on screen at the press conference, sitting at the table. I have no doubt that in your preparation for the role that you've been nominated for, you would have paid close attention to the message as it was being put together. Mr. Kumah, you are now hearing from the convener who yesterday, right after the press conference, told me on the Joy News channel that what you guys did was a waste of time, that your communication is not speaking directly to their need. How do you feel about that?
Well, thank you, and let me say good morning to listeners and to the convener. Yesterday, the minister described the conversation as healthy. What is going on, fix the country conversation as a healthy conversation. And even though, listening to him right now, he wanted a certain procedure or a certain way of communicating for government to listen before we respond, I still think that maybe it's just a matter of how this listening should have been done. If you listen to the initial paragraphs of the statement, the minister said that he has made time already to meet. He said he met representatives of the conveners to understand and explore the collective solutions over what they described as a failure on the part of successive governments to improve the lives of the citizenry. So it's not like government just started talking without engaging them or making attempts to understand exactly what they were trying to say. The minister himself met them. And maybe it's also it's a democracy, and we are all entitled to pushing our understanding of things. But I think that the difficulty in trying to understand exactly how reaction from government to their concerns are is also to do with the specifics. When they say that, yes, successive governments have done things we don't like, we need to improve. Government will be looking out for what are the specifics that can be done now, so that, we have different structures of government, different ministries, different institutions, and how do we engage to address those specific problems. But I also understand that my brother is talking about trust building, that they feel that we need to build trust because they don't even believe that if they state it the way they want it now, they are going to get the solution they wanted, because for them it's all quick fixed in the system and nothing lasting. So
They also say that in the past you've promised things and not delivered, and that's eroded the trust as well.
Well, yes, I agree. And they are not saying one government. They are saying that successive governments have failed them based on promises that they gave and did not deliver. And that is key. And they know that even to address that problem, both sides need to build trust. And so this is not a government that is not willing to listen. Government is prepared to listen to them in details, but we will be happy if they are more specific with the kind of issues that government can address. Because let's not also forget that we are not even yet out of the woods yet. The world pandemic of COVID-19 is still with us. And a lot of things, of course, it has worsened the already difficult situation that it has heightened Ghana's perennial problems that we all know. But government is committed to addressing these problems. And so the minister himself commended them for such a bold attempt, because for them, they are asking their government to be at their best. And government welcomes that. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo himself says that we should not become spectators. Everybody should become a citizen. We must all contribute to the nation building. And I was happy to hear the convener this morning saying that let's fix it together is exactly what they are saying. So if the current approach is not working well, or it's not acceptable to them, or even if the meeting that was called to meet them was not the appropriate forum, let me take this opportunity to encourage him and the other members that they can put their concerns together in a document and present it. Because of COVID, the security agencies may not allow mass demonstrations in order, but let's even assume that yesterday they went on a demonstration. A representative of government will be there to pick their petition, and then we're going to respond to it. So if you have a government reps have met you and responded somehow, if it is still not enough to kind of address the many concerns that we think we should do, I suggest that they can still put it together in a document form, present it to government, any representative of government, because we are prepared to engage them. We are prepared to work with them to listen and to address these problems together.
Okay. Now, John Kumah, you talk about they being specific. I mean, do I get the impression that you don't understand, you don't know what their concerns are?
No, we know. I mean, they put their concerns as a failure on the part of successive governments to improve the lives of the citizenry. This is so far the understanding that we as government get from them.
Well, and doesn't that mean they have been specific with you? They've told you these are
when
concerns.
You say
so
this,
why are you asking for them to be specific?
Definition of success means a lot. You understand? So you need a specific. When you say there's failure on the part of successive governments to improving lives of the citizenry means a lot. When COVID came, we all saw that government came through for the people. Lots of interventions to ensure that we protect lives. So, and that's why yesterday, if you listened, we gave a number of interventions that government has done in order to improve on the lives of the people, including in those difficult times, giving free electricity, giving food to the vulnerable groups that we have in the country. Lots of interventions that went on. Even the public sector, even though there were lockdown, people were not working. Government continually made sure that nobody lost their jobs. Everybody was paid at the end of the month. So we need to know the specifics on what can be done to kind of address the specific failure as we define it. We are not saying that we have addressed all problems of Ghana. This a year is the second year of road continuously that we are having. Government admits that we need to do much more investment in our road sector. There's a lot of, and if you listen to the minister yesterday, he gave out about 5 points on some of the things immediately we want to do. Like we want to work with the Minister for Water and Sanitation so that immediately people who need water, good water in their homes can get them. People want to make sure that there's less congestion on our roads. So he's saying that he's working with the road minister and highways department to ensure that we can decongest the traffic situation in town. We are talking about job creation. The youth, their number one concern is jobs. And we know that yesterday the minister said that the public sector alone consumes compensation and wages alone consume about 52.3% of all our revenues or domestic revenues in the country. So the public sector seems to be very difficult in terms of job creation. So let's look at the private sector. Government is announcing about $200 million for jobs and skill program to enhance job creation significantly, and several other interventions. So let's all have the discussions. Let's look at how best. They also talked about the public debt and the fact that at the moment it's about 76.1. What can we do to bring down? So that one too was explained. How can we were at 76.1%? Certain non-recurrent expenditures that occurred. For instance, cleaning the banking sector, COVID-19 expenditures that came up, which of course was an exogenous shock. No country in the world prepared for COVID-19, yet we all have to deal with it. Okay. We had a deficit of about 25 billion cedis in 2020 budget to deal with. So a number of things on cost of excess capacity charges to IPPs in Ghana alone, that was about 12 billion. Our projected GDP was, reduced from 6.8% to 0.4% by close of the year. All these things obviously have affected the kind of improved livelihoods for people that we were expecting. Okay. So if we can be specific, then we can all talk and say that, okay, this is how we can go about it. But I agree with them. They want to be part of the process. We welcome that idea that they should be part of the process. But I wish they could be more specific in terms of their demands so that we know how to engage them. When you make it broad, government has a lot of ministries, departments, institutions. You don't know where to start from. So I would also encourage them as part of the trust building that they should also meet government halfway and then tell us in terms of specifics. And I'll be very happy if they can submit a paper detailing the specific demands that they are making and how different government institutions can engage them at the same time, so that together we can have a lasting solution to our problems.
Okay, Mr. Kuma, so, I mean, the crux of your submission is that you don't know what their specific issues are.
Well, I haven't said I don't know. I said they have defined it as a failure on the part of successive governments to improve the lives of the citizens. This is what they have told us.
Yes. From
the engagement government has done with them so far.
Yes. And you are asking for them to be specific.
Yes. It will be they are not happy with the understanding, based on the understanding of government, the response that is coming, they seem not to be satisfied. And I'm saying that if they can go beyond what they have said.
Okay, I get you now. So the government responded based on their understanding of what the movement meant by the failure. Okay, now you're asking for specifics, and it occurs to me that this is a social media-driven movement. And on social media, there are perhaps about 100,000 tweets full of specifics that people have said about what they expect to be done. I've been looking at it. I've seen people talk about a need to review our constitution. I've seen people talk about even our remuneration for appointed and elected officials. They've complained about things like ex gratia. They've complained about V8s. There are all kinds of specifics. There are complaints about roads, Dumso. People have been more specific than, in fact, sometimes grossly specific. So has the government not been following what's happening on social media?
Well, thank you. I mean, these issues that we are talking about, there's no country in the world at the moment where citizens are not complaining about one specific thing or the other. So that's the essence of leadership. We exist to address these problems. But where you have a convener trying to put all these sentiments on social media together, you're supposed to also provide leadership on what exactly, when you put all what they are demanding for constitutional change. You know that the constitution cannot just be changed. There's a whole procedure to follow in order to change that constitution. That's why I'm saying when you want to provide leadership and lead the concerns of social media commentary, then it has to be more structured so that we can have a meaningful engagement. And I'm happy when you talk about building trust. So, yes, somebody wants his road to be done. Another wants clean water into his home. Somebody wants all kinds of things. And this is what essence of existence is about. There's no country in the world where there are no problems. People will complain every day. As long as we live, there will be issues to address every day. So the question is government doing something about them? Yes. There is none of these issues that you talk about that government is not doing something at the moment. We are talking about good hospitals. There's Agenda 111 to build extra hospitals in every district in our country. We know that when COVID came in, Ghana is touted as one of the best countries with COVID response globally. It's not just Africa, globally. So it's not like we are not doing anything at all. But they are asking government to be at its best, which government accepts. And I'm saying that let's put all, as leaders of the social media forum, we welcome them, but let them put all of that into a workable engagement so that we can also be seen to be responsive to the concerns. And where it is not enough by way of government effort, we can all listen. Maybe ideas are not in only one head. That's the essence of democracy. Let's also listen to them. There is also another group that believe that where government is doing its best. Another group say government is doing nothing at all. But what are the specifics of engagement? What can we do so that those who think that government is not doing anything at all, we understand it by what do they mean and what can be done for efforts to be placed in that direction.
Right.
So that's all that I'm trying to say to them.
Okay.
We welcome their contribution. They should not feel that government is against their concerns at all. We understand the sentiments of their claim, and we want to be part of the solution. But
Right.
we are also asking of them respectfully and humbly that let them detail in more specific terms what they mean by successive failure on the part of successive governments to improving lives,
Right.
so that we can engage through the various institutions of government.
Okay. I want you to stay with us because I'm going to get a reaction from Mr. Vomewo. Now, Oliver, yesterday you recall that Evans and I made reference to a statement that we read on your Facebook page. And we referenced that statement because we felt that those who read it might think that the conveners of this movement are being deliberately vague about the purpose or the goals or the demands of this movement. Now, it's a very long statement on your page. I can't read it all. But just to get your reactions, because it links with what Mr. Kuma has been saying, I'm going to read some parts of it. And I admit I'm reading parts of it. The full statement is on Mr. Baka Vomewo's Facebook page. You can go and read it in full for yourself. But just to make the point, I'm going to read certain parts of it, if that's okay. So it's written by someone called Nana Kwame Ajim Jebu, and is posted on Oliver's Facebook page. It says, yesterday on Ghana Connect, I noticed, and so this was written on Saturday, I noticed something. Earlier this morning on Newsfile, it was repeated. Samson Anyanini sought to get Baka H. Vogues, which is Mr. Vomewo, to, as it were, break down for everyone what Fix Ghana Now is about. For instance, what exactly the demands of the campaigners are. Before Samson, I had also observed a similar question across various platforms. This question, for the most part, is for good reason, I believe, but resist it, like Oliver did too. Here's why. And then he goes on. I do not think defining the call by a list of deliverables is what the spirit of Fix Ghana Now is, and certainly not what its strategy ought to be too. By all means, demand specific things as part of the process, but let it be just that, a part of it. Later in the statement, he says, so when someone asks you what you want with Fix Ghana Now, be confident to say, I don't know. It's okay to leave it in such absurd state, because that is a reasonable reaction to the equally unexplainable and absurd inequality and hopelessness that the Ghanaian political system perpetuates. Now, there is a paragraph earlier that I missed, and I want to read that now. I understand the campaign to be, and believe so to be, the only sensible explanation that its strength and sustenance lies in its unpredictability, its chaos, and perhaps irrationality. The relentlessness and youth-spiritedness, these are what make leader Che Mensa Bonsu furious and confused. I will read the conclusion and then we can get into it. So he says, my appeal is that be not under any pressure to define what Fix Ghana Now is to those who feign ignorance. They know quite well that you know that government has created jobs, and that although not all roads have been done, some have. It is senseless to lead yourself into the stalemate trap, because the truth is, even the most incompetent government would get something to point to. Because whichever way you look at it, the ruling class, NPP and NDC and their friends, are all like the Jinapo brothers. They would never be in opposition. You and I will. Adepanchi. Oliver, I wonder if you recognize this. It's from your Facebook page. Do you understand those who might read this and come to the conclusion that this movement is designed to make government fail?
First of all, I have said, when you go to my Facebook page, I say that views are made in my personal capacity, and that shared and liked posts do not reflect endorsement. Now, as you have said, I think this person who was speaking, as so many other people have spoken about what Fix the country means to them, shared their views beautifully. But I do not take ownership for the person's voice. I do not want the credit to be given the credit for somebody's, ingenuity and how they've thought about what needs to be done. It is part of the conversations we are inviting, and people have a right to think through how this is sustained and how we continue to engage government as the best way to do that. So this is not something I have written. Let's be clear on that. But most importantly, I think for me, how do I say this? It's a bit frustrating, I think, perhaps in a way that we haven't been used to different forms of mobilizing and talking and engaging government. So, and perhaps it's no fault of ours, but as humans, we are very quick to deploy the templates of the past to define the future. So we've seen that in the past. You start a march from point A to point B, then you deliver a set of petitions to government officials or some state institutions. And so we become so used to people demanding their voice to be placed in the conversation by them giving you a laundry list. But in the face of a different way of mobilizing voices and democratizing the way in which we engage government institutions, and I quote John Kumar, government does not know where to start from and what to do. It's because the demands are structural, our government is either failing in incompetence on the point of how we fix structure, or it is pretending to, as Jebu says in his piece. And that is perhaps where we need to, sit down. And I believe that there's a need for a sit down. I haven't said that, nobody has said that government cannot be engaged or shouldn't be engaged. But I have said that it must go broader than government. And so let's think about a framework within which we do that. Listen, the circumstances under which we produced the 1992 Constitution was not the same circumstance under which we produced the 1979 Constitution. One was elite-led, where we had a minute commission where they developed the constitutional proposals, and then Rawlings, as head of the Jones Fort, then declared it so, and it was proclaimed to be constitution. But the other engaged all sectors of the Ghanaian society. Market women had their place, the clergy had their place, teachers' union had their place. Everyone had a place in a process which was dedicated to building structure. Now, if a lot of the young people who are speaking were born after the 1992 Constitution and haven't seen it live up to its promises, and we need to refix structure. If we even want to use historical templates, how have we provided for structure in our history? I think we need to, that's how we need to start the conversation from. So when he says to me process, then again in the same way tells me, give me a list of deliverables to start working with, I think there's a disconnect. And I want to be clear and intentional about how I say it. And I'm willing to engage any state institutions. I think even as we engage state institutions, we should also engage opposition parties. Even the substance of how we do partisan politics in Ghana, it's something that we need to engage with. Like, for instance, since the 1992 Constitution was passed, from that very get-go, if you read the parliamentary Hansards, if you read all that civil society was saying, they said this accumulates too much power in the executive. We are saying that it gives winner takes all. And every year, Kojo, you have been on this show, people will come and say, yeah, winner takes all, it's bad for our politics, blah, 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 and then we move on. Let's go back to the basics in a process that brings everybody into the conversation, that the problems that government thinks it knows, that the problems that have 100,000, 600,000 actually at different points, people are tweeting and putting it up online, can be brought into a framework and a structure, and we can have a conversation that, compromises are made, negotiated arrangements are arrived at that meets the needs of every Ghanaian. And we need to put that process in place. And for me, without that process, we will just be fighting at each other and claiming that somebody who is saying the structure of government is not saying anything specific. That's my response to the question.
Right. Okay. Now, we still have a bit more to discuss. We're talking to John Kumah, who is the Deputy Finance Minister Designate, and Mr. Oliver Barker-Vormel, who is the convener of the Fix the Country movement. We're going to come back to them right after these important messages. Stay with us.
Roverman Productions presents Sex Scandal, an original play written by Uncle Ebo White.
He is at the height of his career, with the whole world at his feet.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your Artist of the Year, Holy Boy!
Life couldn't possibly be better, but somewhere in the darkness, a naked secret is about to send it all crashing down.
Oh my God! It's finished!
Is that a Holy Boy?
Sex Scandal shows online on Saturday 15th and Sunday 16th of May 2021. Time 7 p.m. each day. Rate 40 Ghana cedis. To register, head on to www.rovermanproductions.com and follow the prompts. Now you can send us a WhatsApp on 050-554-6030. Roverman Productions. Be the difference.
It's time to meet again to taste authentic flavors. Have a safe journey to Asia with Turkish Airlines. Book your ticket now and fly until May 31st to enjoy special fares. Terms and conditions apply. For more information, please visit TurkishAirlines.com. Turkish Airlines, widen your world.
So what are we doing tomorrow?
I have to go to the bank, then go and pay for the stuff for my place. Then maybe back to the bank to transfer what's left to my brother. So
Are you serious? You're going to the bank twice in one day? Who is she? Eh? Which bank? Which branch?
Oh, babe, but...
Oh, don't babe me. What's her name? Tell her what?
It's a new day.
Make your life easy with CowBank mobile banking. Just dial *771#, and just like that, your life is easy. Transfer money from your CowBank account to any other account. Do mobile money and other payments right from your bank account on your phone, anytime, anywhere. No internet, no charges. It's just that easy. *771#. Banking is easy with CowBank.
CowBank, forward together.
CowBank, forward together.
Come Charlie, right now, dear, the printing business slow. Power problems every day. I'm not able to meet client demand, and it's a big worry.
Charlie.
But Charlie, you actually bought that heavy generator as a backup power. Business is good for you.
Thank you, bro, but I didn't buy it. I rented it.
Sir, away.
From the Generator Express, of course, Anointed Electrical Engineering Services has added rentals to their wonderful services.
So you mean, apart from the sale of quality generators and spare parts with their impeccable 24/7 after sales maintenance and services, they also do rentals?
Exacto, man. Anointed has a wide range of generators from 5 to 1,000 kVA ready for rentals, my bro.
I see. They are still at number 77 Anointed House off the Odokomalam Road in Accra, right?
And in Kumasi, Anointed is in the City Style building in Amakum near Ashefem. And all Anointed branches across the country are still operating. Call their hotline 0243 480 334. Anointed Electrical Engineering Services. Still the generator experts.
Hello?
Eddie, my friend.
Yeah?
May is going to be amazing with DSTV. There are 155 matches from the Premier League,
What?
La Liga, Serie A, Champions League, and FA Cup.
Whoa.
That's 2 of the biggest cup finals and 3 of the best leagues in the world, reaching the pinnacle of the season.
Whoa, that is amazing.
It is amazing, Eddie. And the only place in the world where you can watch all of this amazing football in May is on DSTV.
Be amazed by the world's best football when you get connected to DSTV.
The cousin that hogs all the food. The relative who's always late. The brother who's always on the phone.
Hello, let me call you right back.
The niece who's allergic to everything.
No, thank you. I'm allergic.
The work buddy that finishes the last of the Coca-Cola. We all know one, but meals wouldn't be the same without them. Savor moments together with Coca-Cola. This advert is FDA approved.
Oka Dekwana, your products in United Stronko. Home, outdoor and office furniture, kitchen and decor items, carpets, cushions, toys, and many more. Locate us off the Sprinters Road in Accra. Think home, think Oka.
Kromu MP, that's why baby are obeying Sangumay. Kwamami Kromu MP, that's why baby are Obaha Mumu Sasadati. Pasu twice you couldn't yet to die a catchy, Obebaha Nedrabo, a Yakasi Binesi, Yanian and Chenum Suo, Yahiabo Bako, the free your crump Sansupa, Wakame Danson, Yanum Subani, young quiet Yasama Sobako, Elephantias Neku and Debia, Yechajado, the Supusem, cage in the primary Samangu Biase, Quanfon, and Qualafora Bus Kun answer Daddy. Quan you soon put to a bedroom and why a Fisa Banti, Morphim, and Ibrim, and Qualay Pomo Daxing, and put him in Ka Afue, Yaya Sabia, Osisi Kasemye, Kakutui, and Tiwania, and Yanon Yabambo, yet Yafisemu Hunya, and Yanya, and Meriwena Ejo Munengumyamia, Mosebe Pewa no Casa, delivery Nikino, Obahan Strasha, Bravo de Becon will be the Kanya Honsen, and Yakanya Honsen, Yankonarium and Toba, and San Uncle Fianco Dasun. I wanna pray for Ghana, yeah, I wanna pray for Ghana. Never Juma, Kosempinu Mahamed Tomana, Obin can send me MP, yeah, Obin can me MP. Omansikana Kwada, so Otia Wadenumasana. During the campaign time, remember what he told us. Before for life, Saudi, Yajin in neighbor told us. Only your twin said the DNA, who are gas go back. I dream 1 year so, man. Of course, I dream so fast. I love my country, maybe Biana, me criticize it. Mr. MP, Dia who also sacrifice it. The first reality, Yadi Biana, me criticize it. Browy, Uchu Mutai, Abato, Bedabe, a blue and Twaba, not what organize the fun games. Messi Sukudai, meaning Pepe, your mind games. Imabuno, Yataya Power, still the wait for that day. Abato that your baby and Mama Saristi Bansi, Sikeni has a storm de Kakranu Kusi Chamber, $200 million, Swata Keti, Amagana. I don't want to compare, Rasina Kagami, Sarawanda, Yensi Nuchum, but then Positin, Sempi Simba, Squad the Preda Pena, Leader Sibeti Yasim, Yaya Pay campaign, Yadi 50 Ghana t-shirt, Train with that, one of the
Welcome back to the Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7 FM. My name is Kojo Yanks. I'm here with
Winston Amon.
And of course, Raymond Dakwa is here. Animado is here. DJ Wubeti and Victor Brachi and Aaron and the whole team. Fairboy, all of us are ready to bring you what you need at this time of the morning by way of breakfast. Okay, so our guests, as we continue to have a conversation, a bit of a post-mortem, if you like, of the presser that was held at the Finance Ministry yesterday. Our guests are Oliver Barker-Vormawor, who is the convener of the Fix the Country movement. We also have on the line, and he is the Deputy Finance Minister Designate, and that's he is in fact the Honourable Member of Parliament for Ejisu, and he's in the person of Sir John Kuma. Now, before we continue, I'm glad we have you, Honourable Member of Parliament, because yesterday there was an issue raised during the press conference, and I would like a bit of fact-checking, or if you like, clarification on that, if you can help us, if you have the information. So the Finance Minister mentioned that among the interchanges being built, the one in Takoradi,
though that doesn't respond to their concerns. And I'm happy you read an article from one of the social media concerns that have been put out, and they are saying that if they are asked their problem, they should be bold to say they don't know, even though they are agitating. So let's put that in context, that government is prepared to dialogue, but government will dialogue on specifics and what we can all do together. We are prepared to engage them anytime, any day, to address specific concerns that can bring development. At the end of the day, they must know that as much as they have the right to complain, those with responsibility to address those problems also have the right to understand the exact content of the complaint so that we can move forward and build the trust that they want us to build. Okay, so let me go back to the 7 interchanges. Obviously, you know, if you look at the 2021 budget, a number of other interchanges, I think even goes beyond the 7, because we are talking about Swami interchange, the Ofori-Chrome interchange, plus the Takoradi interchange, among others. There has been a shortcut, I think, last year for the Takoradi interchange.
7 months ago, yes.
Yes. And then you know that once it has been factored as part of government finances at the Ministry of Finance, we will factor it as long as it has been captured as part of government expenditure. So if there are operational issues, the best ministry to address it will be the Ministry of Roads and Highways. So I will encourage you to talk to the minister responsible for the operations or in terms of the delivery of that project. But the Minister of Finance confirmed that, yes, it is part of government expenditure. And so if there are problems on the ground, let's go into it and make sure that the project is executed.
Mr. Kuma, is this to say that the Finance Ministry has disbursed the funds to the Roads Ministry and therefore expect the project to be ongoing?
Investment is based on work done. But once you make the allocation, it is captured as part of government expenditure.
Right, very well. Okay, so that's why it was listed among the 7, because money has been allocated for it.
Allocated.
Okay,
yes.
so I suppose this is an illustration, isn't it, of how what is being done at government level doesn't always affect the people, because they are sitting in Takoradi waiting to see the construction of an interchange. It's not happening, but government keeps saying that it's happening. 100%. You realize how that would cause, disaffection.
Yes. In fact, this is the level of sometimes inefficiencies in the system that we will be happy to work together with everybody with idea on how we can get the people to get results. So, so Ministry of Finance makes allocations for an interchange to be built in Takoradi. Maybe an engineer who's supposed to supervise the work, or the contractor. Sometimes even some contractors take mobilization and they don't even go to site. And so all kinds of sometimes M&E problems, the auditing of the process to make sure that even funds that are disbursed. You'll be surprised to know that certificates, I had one regional minister complaining on air some time ago that a road that has been certified by the road engineer has been done. And then he's supposed to authorize the payment. Then he decided to go and have a physical inspection of the project, only to find out that that road has not been constructed. So there's a lot of inefficiencies in the system, and government is happy to engage so that we are all able to promote efficiency and get results for the expenditures and for our revenues that, of course, the taxes that we pay. We all want to see better results from government. These are not things that government will say they don't exist. There are inefficiencies, but that is what we are working on every day to improve. And if the conveners are willing to partner government to ensure that we all get good results, we are ready to dialogue with everybody and every stakeholder.
Okay. Now, talking about the conveners, let me get to you, Oliver. So, listening to you on Joy News yesterday, again, you made the point that government should immediately address the challenges facing the country. Just so we know when those challenges are addressed, what would constitute a fixed country for you and your team?
So, I keep hearing my senior John Kumar talk about how government does not understand the exact nature of the complaints. And I would go back to the virtual space and I would go back to them and say that after, 600,000 daily tweets daily, government still cannot understand the demands you're saying and what you're saying exactly. And so maybe we need another day of virtual protest, and maybe this time they'll sit down and listen and hear your voices. But I want to say specifically to John Kumar that if I tell him now, today, that the base of the problem is that people have lost trust in the ability of our democracy to deliver on its promises. And I say that too, there's a lack of belief that when government speaks, that its word is its bond. How is it proposing to fix that problem? That's if he wants something to go home with. And because we have said fix the country, they said it's not specific demand. We have said fix the structure in the system, it's not specific enough. I'm giving him two. That one, people have lost trust in the ability of our democracy to deliver on its promises. How do you fix that lack of trust before you go on and list specific socio-economic interchange building? When I say that people do not even believe the word of government, that it is committed and takes its own word as its bond and deliver on them, how do you fix that before you go and promise them that Amazon is coming into the country? So let them work on that. But let's build process to how we work on those issues. Because I don't think personally that I am expecting government to give me a loan in its back chambers and come out with a 3-hour presser telling me that I have all the answers and this is the way forward. I honestly don't think so. I think that process to trust building must be in a process, and we want to engage the nature and the form of the process to that point. So that's sort of what it means. Now, in terms of the specific question about what does it mean for Ghana to be fixed and what does it look like? Let me go back to when I was a young boy, and it's perhaps many people listening to me were older when this came out. I was raised in my school system to believe in the promise of a Vision 2020. And the vision, when you go back to that document, said to me that Ghana would look like Singapore. That is the basis. I don't know why we chose Singapore, but that is what we used as a society. Does Ghana look like Singapore? That is what I was raised to believe on by the government, the state institutions speaking into me and making me subscribe and put my faith in the project. Okay. Now that project has passed on, and nobody has acknowledged, even at any point, that we led you on a path into the desert, and we don't know how to get you out of that desert. That is what I think a lot of people are saying. So
for you, those are your expectations. That would more or less constitute a fixed country for you?
What government says that it would do. When, for instance, this current government was campaigning, the issues it said it was fixing. All the things we have put down in our development plans over the years that we keep changing them and putting in new ones without ever meeting them, putting those in place would mean with a fixed country. But fix the country, as we are talking about it now, it's also about putting in the process that rebuilds trust and re-galvanizes us towards a project of where we want to go. I do not expect that when I wake up tomorrow, I open the door and then Ghana completely looks different than what I woke up to. It's fantastical to think that any of the young people speaking are so naive to think this. But they're asking for a process that leads to a genuine project to how we move this country forward. And let's listen to those rather than continue to paternalize, infantilize them and saying that you're not saying anything at all. That's my sense.
I want to come back to Mr. John Kumah for this one, because I suppose now we have a certain little hint, if you like, from Oliver of what would look like a deliverable. And he's talked about fixing the trust problem as being a priority. Now, it's interesting that is his first suggestion or first hint, because it has come up a lot since this Fix the Country movement began. Many people have been playing back some of the promises that the NPP made before they became government and comparing them to the reality of today. So, for example, the promise that in 2 years there will be no town with water or toilet problems, among other promises. But I noticed that even in the finance minister's statement yesterday, there were more promises. And while we were speaking to you, you reminded us of other promises, like the 111 district hospitals. All of these things are very large, projects, which will cost a fortune. And we are in a situation where, as the finance minister admits, our debt problem is getting very, very bad. He says we've even been disingenuous about it. So, would this not be the time for government to start dialing back on promises and perhaps managing expectations and telling people, you know what, we promised A and B and C. But looking at our current situation, we're going to have to shelve B and C and focus on A. Do you think that might help rebuild trust?
Well, thank you very much. I have listened to Oliver again. He said he's giving me two indications, one on trust, another on failed democracy. Let me start with the democracy. And I think that as a young man of this country, anybody who has read our history as a country should be the last person to attack democracy in Ghana and call it a failure. Because this is possible for...
I'm sorry, I feel like I have to intervene.
Hello?
Kojo, I
sorry.
haven't attacked democracy. And I'm very committed to the democratic process. And this is all I've been asking for. I'm saying that our democracy has not delivered on its promises. I am not attacking democracy. So let's not muddy the waters, please.
Well, that's what I thought I heard. Don't worry. You can write it down and respond to it. But you see, we have to always speak in context because we have tried other forms of governance in this country before. In 1966, Ghana got its first coup. We saw the military regime in this country and the excesses that came. In 1972, we went back to democracy. 72, we saw the Second Republic, another coup came until 1979. Even between 78 and 79, we saw different kinds of coups until the Fourth Republic came in 1992. So let's not be in a hurry to say that our democracy has failed to deliver on its promises. We have been 30 years in this Fourth Republic from 1992 to today. We have to be patient. And he was comparing Ghana to Singapore and to other democracies. I believe that Singapore had the patience for one leader, Zhang Kuan Yu. What's the name? I've forgotten his name.
Lee Kuan Yew.
Lee Kuan Yew to stay in power for 30 years. And that brought that kind of stability for a particular vision to be pursued for a long time. In every, will Ghana be patient enough to allow, in our democracy, a particular government to stay in power for that long? So all these choices sometimes come with a cost that we face. So we must discuss our particular circumstances, of course, in view of what we also go through every day. And the question of promises in democracy. And sometimes we must not address our problems as if we are the only democracy in the world. Everywhere, every part of the world, democracy is built on promises. So if a government says, when you vote for me, I'll build a factory in every district, we call it one district, one factory. We'll make sure that in 2 years, no water or toilet problem exists in every community. For me, I will see it as a vision. And even though there are specific timelines, like I will change Ghana in 18 months, indeed, it means that he is not saying that he's going to address all Ghana problems in 18 months. Then we will fail to exist again as a nation. Because once you address one problem, for instance, poor Ghanaian children couldn't go to school. He says that in 18 months, I will address that. Indeed, we have seen. Let's also give credit where credit is due. His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, in his first term, executing that promise and making sure that every Ghanaian child is now in school. We are talking about free SHS for every Ghanaian child. And this was done within the 18 months of the promise. So we must...
It's your submission that the president transformed Ghana in 18 months
it was a huge
with free
transformation.
SHS.
If you want to look at from the education point of view, you get it. Now, poor people's children can also rub shoulders with rich people's children. So it depends on, that's why I always say that if you are not specific, we will condemn every effort that we have done. But when we are specific, you realize that if this is the yardstick of bringing free education to every Ghanaian, then indeed, even if not 100%, there has been a dramatic improvement. Right. So we cannot totally say that all the promises that have been delivered has failed. Yes, President Akufo-Addo wanted to build one district, one factory. And in the 4 years, we had 76 completed with 181 different factories at various stages of completion. That is good effort. So when we are able to sustain some of these efforts over time, the democracy we compare to some are 100 years and 200 years and 300 years. So if only we will be patient. In 30 years, we are not the best, but I can tell you, if you come to our continent and our peers, our regional peers, we are one of the best, even though our best is not enough. And that is why the Minister for Finance, Honorable Ken, said that he commends Oliver and his group for asking for the best from their government. There's more room for improvement. Government is prepared to do more. And so let's dialogue. Let's be specific on what things we can do together. The question of trust that Oliver keeps talking about, yes, trust can be built from both ways. So let us see how best we can make each other. I mean, there must be compromises to a certain level. We cannot stand at the extreme ends and say that we are building trust. We should sometimes give and take and know that even the ability to disagree whilst building our nation and saying that, yes, you have failed, and saying that, yes, you have succeeded, and saying that even though you have done your best is not enough, let's do more. It's all part of the democratic accountability that we are pushing for our country. And when we all say we want to build Ghana beyond aid, let us put our efforts together. Let's be more, but like I always say, let's be more specific in our demands and see if something that we are not doing can be done. Ideas are not in only the government's shoulders. We can all contribute to make our fourth republic better. But I will continually plead with Oliver. Now, when we ask for specific, you say that we should go and read 26,000 tweets. I mean, did I hear him say that if we want specific, we should go and read?
No, actually, I said 600,000 tweets.
About 600,000
because
we should
that's
go
the
and
voice
read
of
it
Ghanaians.
before we
yes.
get to know the specifics of what the Ghanaian youth are talking about. Then what is the essence of you being the convener? That's the essence of
Again,
leadership.
Perhaps this is where the mistake is.
I'm coming.
Gentlemen, I'm acutely aware that our time is actually running out.
Yes.
So please, if Mr. Kuma can wrap this up quickly.
That if we are just coming from an election, remember, and about 17 million registered voters, about 15 million of them voted. So if we have just come from an election, Ghanaians have expressed their satisfaction or otherwise of their government. And of course, every 4 years there will be an election. So if there's a new campaign on social media and Oliver has identified himself as the convener, then he should be able to coordinate all the 600 tweets and put them into a data of engagement and say that this is what the Ghanaian youth are looking for. But if we ask you for specific engagements on rules of engagement, and you tell us that we should go and read all the 600,000 tweets, then what is the essence of you calling yourself the convener for the group?
You've made the point, Mr. Kuma.
Let us try and also meet us halfway. Tell us exactly, we want A, we want B. This is understanding of it. This is how we can collectively engage.
Forgive me for cutting in. My producer is signaling me that our time is up. Forgive me for cutting in, Mr. Kuma. But I think that is a point you have already made. I want to thank you both for your time with us and for speaking to these issues. This conversation can only be an ongoing one. And so we look forward to engaging you both again in the coming days. Thank you both. God bless. We'll take these messages, and when we come back, it'll be your turn to tell us what you think from everything you've heard so far. It's your show. Let's have your voice on it after these messages.